Welcome to the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. My name is Anja van Rhijn and I'm a personal branding strategist and visibility expert to professional women who want to be successful in life, whatever that means to them, but without giving up who they are and what is important to them. I help them create the business that will allow them to live the life that they want for themselves. I'm also the founder and the host of the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show, and today it's my privilege to be interviewing Savill. Stephanie's early career was spent in educational travel, culminating in board roles with Granada, Mecca and Rank PLC. After her MBA made her restless, her stepdaughter had a bad garage experience, and the idea of the UK's first motoring club for women became irresistible. Sorry for that one. Irresistible. In 2015, the Institute of the Motor Industry awarded her their outstanding contribution to the motor industry on behalf of women drivers. Welcome to the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm very well this afternoon, although it's quite hot.
It is quite hot, I must admit. This end as well, absolutely. So, Stephanie, I'm delighted to have you. And yes, your biography made me quite curious. How does a woman end up in wanting to do something in the automobile industry, in the motoring world?
Well, I suppose, and yes, that it says something about my personality, because when my stepdaughter had a bad garage experience, I was very tempted to do something about it in the industry, but call me foolish, perhaps. I didn't know what I was letting myself in for. But my background, of course, in business studies and in marketing came in invaluably, because it meant that I would do my homework properly before I actually took on a venture of this nature. And the trigger for me in many ways was the fact that the motor industry isn't regulated. Now, what that means is the likes of service and repair work when we go to garages is not a regulated area, and mechanics don't have to be licensed to do that sort of work. And it was clear that whoever had looked after Emma's car certainly wasn't licensed to do their job. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent her away, having sold her tyres that weren't new tyres at new tyre prices, nor would they have conned her that they had serviced her car, when clearly, when my husband looked after under the bonnet, he could see that neither the oil nor the filter had been changed as a starter. Now, all that sounds as if it might be a case of my thinking, I'm going to complain and get some money back. But of course, the thing that really got me started was the fact that this meant that our cars could be being repaired and they weren't safe when we took them away from the garage. But I think I then wanted to hear what my family and friends thought about the motor industry. And I realised that it wasn't just me that had a fairly poor or unimpressed opinion of things that went on. And it wasn't just garages. It also included areas like buying a new car where we have to haggle, and areas where we are sold tyre services that perhaps we really don't need. So there was lots of different areas that I realised we might be able to do something about. But when I actually went to do my market research to see if women would buy the sort of thing that I had in my mind, because I did have some background in membership systems, and my husband is an engineer and has been an automotive journalist, so he had quite a few skills to bring to the party as well. But I still wanted to know what whether women would be likely to buy the sort of product that I had in mind. But I couldn't describe it, so it wasn't easy for them to understand what it was I had in mind. And I decided that the best way for me to carry out my market research to see if it was a goer or not was just to do it.
Love it.
Like, I've got to do it, see what it looks like, and if it works, women will buy it, and off we'll go. Now, of course, it wasn't.
So if I may interrupt you, I would like to rewind a bit, because my experience is that that type of experiences, negative like that, are happening, but not necessarily with women. They happen with men as well. So is there anything particular that made you think that they had taken advantage of the fact that Emma was a woman and, oh, we can fool her, and I don't know, and then why is it that you decided to focus on women specifically? You could have done the same for both genders.
Yes, of course, and in many ways you could say that we are doing something for men, because we are actually working with businesses that have standards that meet female expectations, which means perhaps that after the industry has been run for so many years by men and for men, if women then come along and say, really, we are looking for better standards, and this is definitely the case, women are not happy with the male standards that are in place in the majority of instances. Therefore, by raising bar to what I would call a Foxy lady approved standard, i.e. female friendly, we are then helping men to understand that standards can be better for them as well. And in fact, I find that whilst only women can join Foxy Lady Drivers Club, it is also true that men are using the garages.
Yeah, of course. So the garage is not working with women only, so the hidden benefit for men is that the standard has raised.
That's right, and I think this tells me something about different genders as well. And I think that the men were unhappy and are unhappy about poor quality standards, but in many ways, because they are dealing with men in the motor industry, perhaps they are less likely to tell the men that they would like it to be better, because they seem to have a language where they communicate with each other using the words like mate and jargon and performance and speed, that guys seem to recognise and are totally irrelevant to most women drivers. Not all.
It's very, very interesting.
So I really, from that early start, I then realised I needed to get my act together in terms of minimum quality standards. I was really worried that I would be introducing women to garages or car dealers that could exploit them. You know, the very fact that we were introducing them could mean that women became vulnerable because the unscrupulous dealers might want to join our network. So what I have done is I've come up with minimum standards for the garages, for the dealers, tyre centres, etc., that join our network, and they have to sign the Foxy Promise for starters, which is to never overcharge, patronise, or sell women any services we don't need. Now, the need is very important, because particularly in the fast fit area, we perceive that many businesses will sell us things that we don't need if the salesman is being motivated financially so to do. So those businesses cannot sign up to be Foxy Lady approved. That's step one. Step two is that I then needed to identify minimum quality standards in each area. So that means identifying the businesses that have invested in being better than the rest. and I have various standards that I look for in terms of that commitment, and they include chartered trading standard schemes, listings with the Institute of the Motor Industry, who operate the only inclusive professional register for individuals within the motor industry, and other similar standards. So I wanted to see a commitment to quality, to value for money, to cleanliness. Now that is a very tricky
that's a good one.
Industry, and customer service. And the only way I could really measure those aspects were after the business demonstrated that they were good enough from a quality point of view, but so that I could then measure the value, the cleanliness, and the customer service through female feedback. So what we actually do, and it's quite a novel model, but it's more a relationship model for the businesses that work with us. Because when I started out, I thought that women are going to pay us a subscription annually, and that subscription would fund the work that we are doing. Of course, I was starting from scratch, and I didn't have the members to get the benefits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or the benefits to attract the members. So I had to work that one out as well. And what I decided that I would do would be to make the club a not-for-profit organisation, which is funded by the garages, the dealers, the tyre centres that are good enough to be promoted to women as Foxy Lady approved and better than the rest. And the way that I make that work, so they would pay us a subscription, an annual subscription, to be promoted in their business as female friendly, so that they can use our marketing materials and our credentials to single them out as being better than the rest, better than their competitors in their area, so that women who are shopping for the likes of garages or used cars or whatever start to see Foxy Lady approved as a sign of reassurance and bring them business in their own right. But what I then needed to do was to harness the women drivers that they might be looking they might be looking after, to encourage them to join Foxy Lady Drivers Club, so that we could then extend the Good Garages Female Fan Club by getting those members to invite their friends to join the club. And
it's almost a chicken and the egg.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, what it meant is that the garages and the dealers that join us then recruit and give free club membership to their customers. So that is how we grow the club.
Yep.
On the one side. This is how the good businesses show themselves to be different. And of course, we are carrying on their marketing through our monthly newsletters, reminding the ladies that have joined us that they have a female choice when it comes to whatever their motoring need is.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of way we're working.
Interesting, because indeed I remember when we met, you gave me that brochure and I gave it to my landlord, and she looked at me and she said, "Are the garages that are female friendly?" I said, yeah. So yeah, most people don't know. Indeed, that's interesting. But from a reach perspective, geographically, where are you? How many of those garages do you have? Garages, for instance, because I understand it's not garages only.
Yes, if I was to talk about Foxy Lady approved businesses, to include garages and dealers,
yeah.
Then we are talking at between 500 and 600 businesses across the UK.
How quickly did you grow it to that number?
We started in 2008.
Okay.
So it's slow. It is a slow growth. but we have, the club has now got in the region of 15,000 individual female members. And of course, they don't just join us for our approved garages or dealers. I'm sorry about the noise, that's the phone ringing. I thought I'd turned it down, but it has been taken. So women join us for all sorts of reasons. One of the latest benefits that I'd just like to touch on, if I may, is the fact that a lot of women find motoring to be very stressful, and they suffer from anxiety levels. And this is something that I feel very strongly about, as well as motoring safety and that sort of thing. And I come across a lot of women who talk to me about their partners who are very critical of their driving ability.
Yeah.
And this has an effect on their driving confidence.
Yeah.
We also find that women come to us who are driving again for the first time. They might have been divorced or bereaved, and perhaps their husband or partner was the one who did most of the driving or most of the looking after the car. And then we have incidents, and this is quite a new thing that I am learning about, where mums are concerned about the driving instructor that they might introduce their 17 or 18-year-old daughter to. So they are looking for a standard in that area. And there are other women who simply have great fears about driving on motorways and have great fears after being involved in an accident,
yeah.
Or perhaps experiencing road rage. And another area that is so common is women who are so fearful of driving after they have had children, because all of a sudden the responsibility of somebody else's onboard safety is so massive. So this is an area that Foxy is trying very hard to offer a package of services for, and we have the opportunity for anyone, depending on the degree of stress. For some people, it's as simple as taking a driving course with the right recommended driving instructor to reassure them or just update their driving skills and give them that confidence to tackle the job again. But for me, it would be extremely sad if women could not take advantage of the benefits of the car. It's different in London, of course. It's different in certain cities where the public transport system is so good, you probably don't need a car. But in the majority of areas, I live in rural Sussex. It would take me all day to cross the county if I didn't have a car.
Yeah, a car is freedom, huh? Autonomy.
Freedom. I also think it's safety in many areas, because it does mean that you don't have to use public transport late at night.
Yeah.
And you also, I mean, it is extremely difficult to take multiple pushchairs and such like on public transport. It's really difficult. So the car has, you know, it has a lot to be said for it. So I would like to think that the services we are offering mean that any woman who is fearful or anxious or stressed about motoring could feel she could join us and ask for support on a one-to-one basis. And the first thing I would say to her is, you are not on your own. This is surprisingly common, and together we can crack it.
It's fascinating because there is far more involved than, you know, when you just scratch the surface. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because you know that I come from France, and obviously the wheel is not the same side. And I arrived in London, well, tomorrow, 22 months ago. And for the time being, I'm not ready to drive at all, because even crossing the street, sometimes I'm, you know, in my mind, and I don't look the right side. And so I definitely know that the day I will start driving again, in France I was driving all the time, I would definitely take a few lessons first, because I wouldn't feel confident to just take a car and go because of this left-right thing.
Well, that's quite understandable, of course. And as long as you and I are in touch with each other, you will find that I will be encouraging you to take this step, because I think it will be important should you find yourself outside of London.
Yeah, no, exactly.
When the time is right, and yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as you say, I haven't made it a priority because I live in London and I'm in public transport constantly. So it would be very different if I were in an area where a car would make the difference to me. Where I was living just before arriving in France, I was in a small village. There was no way I would imagine myself without a car. So of course, so the need isn't there for the time being. That's for sure. But it's really interesting. So where do you envision, seeing Foxy Lady go to the future? Is there any other ideas you have around that?
The magic formula for me is based around the numbers of women that we have within the club. I have 3 objectives, and I always try to remember these, whatever I'm up to. And my first objective, and where the club started, was to negotiate and provide better motoring services for women. So out of the club, of course, I had to come to terms with grips.
Stephanie.
Businesses. I wanted to
Stephanie, the sound is very bad all of a sudden. I think you have to repeat what you were saying. Can you try again?
Yes. You asked me about the big picture.
Yes, yeah. And now I seem to hear you better.
I'll carry on from there.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it that I am very ambitious for the club. The magic formula is probably the number of women drivers that we are looking after, because that then means that I will be able to attract more motoring businesses to work with us. And the more motoring businesses that work with us, the more I can remind them what being female friendly means and keep them on their toes. Mm-hmm. And that is my short-term objective. I would like to think that we were also able to encourage more women to come into the motor industry, because there is no doubt to me that when I walk into a motoring business where women are there, it is a more welcoming place than into one which is staffed entirely by men. And that's not to say that men can't be absolutely wonderful in terms of customer service. It's just the welcome that you feel to make you relax when. So to answer your question, the big plan is to actually grow the motoring club in terms of numbers of women drivers. And to do that, I'm looking specifically at developing partnerships with women's organisations and with female employers, so that I can put on volume in that area. And we have a product for individuals, which works very well. And at present, it's very low cost, because, as I have explained, I am attempting to collect volume, and I don't want price to deter people. But of course, it is more attractive to me to be looking at dealing with groups rather than individuals. Mm-hmm. And my big picture that I dream about, which may sound a bit daft to some, is why wouldn't we have a very large motoring club for women drivers, doing exactly what women drivers would like us to do and getting it right for women, rather than lumping us all together in terms of one type of motorist. So I can't see really why we couldn't be an alternative to the AA or the RAC even.
That I like as a big picture. Stephanie, I'm becoming conscious of time. This is really a very interesting conversation, but yeah, we have to bring it to a close. So tell us more where people can find you, and if they are interested in this, how can they join?
The Foxy Lady Drivers Club website is foxylladydrivers.com. If anybody would like to speak to me about putting a partnership in place or an employer benefit scheme in place, then I would ask them to contact me by email direct, and my email address is Steph, that's STEPH, at foxylladydrivers.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for this conversation. I will add your website when I release the video, and I suppose that your email address can be found there as well. So that shouldn't be a problem. So for the viewers and the listeners, if you are a bit like a Steph and you have this dream that you want to make come to fruition, but you don't know where to start, and you're not ready to just stick to what everyone calls the standards, you want to make it your standards, I recommend you book a free discovery consultation with me so that I can discuss with you how I can potentially help you make that dream come true, make that happen. Be a woman who makes things happen. So Stephanie, thank you so much. I realized I forgot to give my website. Sorry. That is agnesvanrhijn.com. That's where you book the discovery consultation. And that is ANYESVANRHIJN.com. Thank you so much. See you in the next interview. Bye.